What up, y'all? This is Patrick Hayes, and I was asked recently to make a video on how to discover and release unconscious blocks. So that's what this video is going to be about today. And before I get started, what I'd like to say is that there's a lot of different ways of discovering and uncovering unconscious blocks. And so what I'm going to share with you today is a small fraction of some of the things that you can do, because there are many, many different modalities and techniques. But what I'm going to share with you is things that I have experience with and things that have worked for me. So, as far as discovering unconscious blocks, well, a couple ways that I like to discover unconscious blocks, or at least that I have in the past, are by observing different things that indicate that I have unconscious blocks. So, for example, one thing that would indicate that you have an unconscious block in a particular area is the kinds of thoughts that you obsess about. So if you notice that sometimes throughout your day, little things can trigger you into thinking a certain thing that you kind of get stuck thinking about. You can't stop thinking about it. So it could be maybe somebody says something to you a certain way, and then you start getting irritated in your head, or thinking a lot about what the person said, or maybe having a conversation with them in your head about it and going off for a long period of time. Or you might watch some show that reminds you of something, and you remember this past memory, and then you start thinking about this time period in your life, and you just keep thinking about it and thinking about it. And it's not something that's easy to stop thinking about. Well, when you can notice that you have a thought that has a magnetism to it like that you can't stop thinking about, and you want to stop thinking about it, that's usually indicative of some kind of block that you have regarding something that is reminding you of, or something that is associated with that. Because thoughts that are of our own free will, you could say, or thoughts that are of a higher vibrational nature, are relatively easy to shift. You can just jump back and forth. They don't have a kind of a grabbing energy. They don't grab onto you so much. So if you start paying attention to, on a regular basis, those kinds of thoughts that get stuck in your head, and the arena surrounding those kinds of thoughts, what the triggers are and what they might be associated with, this is how you can identify a potential block that you have within you. So what you would do then is, once you figure out, like, well, I keep thinking about this time period, then you might have some sort of block because you might have been traumatized at that time. There might be some sort of blocked judgment that you have regarding yourself or other people that was associated with those memories that keep getting triggered, or those thoughts that you keep having. And I have to keep it somewhat general because I'm giving a general overview of it. But I think this basically covers the idea. When you notice that you're thinking about something too much, or you have obsessive thoughts that you can't control, there's something in that area that you probably have some sort of stuck energy or energetic block, or mental or emotional block regarding. So you can kind of start doing some investigation surrounding that and see if you can find the source of it. But this gives you some direction for how to figure that out. Now, another way of being able to identify a particular block would be if you find yourself trying to do a particular thing and continuously failing at it and not understanding why you're failing at it. It could be indicative that you have some sort of block. Oftentimes people have something called what you could call a success barrier. And so in many ways they might be going through the motions of everything that should generate a particular result, but they're not getting that result and they don't understand why. And a success barrier could very well just be like a closed root chakra, or it could very well be some kind of subconscious mental block or emotional block regarding the particular goal that you're trying to achieve. But the way that it can show up is that you're doing all the footwork you feel like you should be doing in order to create this thing, but it's not being created and you don't understand why. Well, what it is that you're just out of harmony with this thing because of this block that you have. And so you might just choose to do it at the wrong time. You might be doing all the right things, but slightly in the wrong way, or with the wrong timing, because you're rushing through it because you're kind of in an anxiety state. So this is kind of an example of how noticing that if you're not good at doing a particular thing and you don't understand why, and you should be good at doing this thing based off of your own awareness, that means there's a part of your awareness that is not tuned in to a particular aspect of your beingness or your behavior. And this is indicative of a block. You have some sort of block in there somewhere. So again, the idea is to start investigating what it is that potentially you're blocked surrounding. So this requires deep introspective work, right? You can ask yourselves questions like, what would I need to change in order for this to reveal itself to me? See, honestly, the true intention and the sitting down and asking yourself, okay, what could I be doing better here? What am I missing here? And then meditating on that is extremely powerful. You'd be really surprised how powerful that is. But you need to be receptive to be constructively critical of yourself. If you're not receptive to your own constructive criticism, then it's very difficult for you to break through and see that. Now, another way to actually figure out where you could be potentially blocked is to ask somebody. We all had the experience where there's somebody in the group of friends and everybody knows they have this issue, but no one will tell them what that issue is. Well, the truth of the matter is that the people that know you really well, they know what your blocks are. Maybe not all the details of all of your blocks. Maybe some of the stuff's cloaked. Maybe they don't tune into you that much. But if you have close friends, the chances are they're aware of some of your blocks. They probably just haven't told you about it because it's an uncomfortable conversation to have. So one way is finding one of your close friends or somebody that you at least trust their opinion and asking them, where do you think I'm blocked? I feel like I might be blocked in a certain area. Maybe you could, and the idea is you gotta make it safe for them to share it with you. You gotta ensure them that it's not gonna create static in your relationship by sharing that with you. But that's another way for you to zero in on what some of your blocks are. Now, as far as how do you release some of these blocks? Well, again, there's a lot of different ways to release blocks. But I'm going to give you the mental and the energetic way that I like to release blocks. So what I do is once I've identified what this block is, then I build a new mental framing of the situation, a framing that frees me from the restriction that I had mentally surrounding the particular thing. So I create a more empowered, more optimistic, more open perception that gives me permission mentally to break out of whatever old pattern or stuck state that I'm in. And you can use all sorts of different reframing techniques, positive thinking techniques. You can find a lot of stuff on this in my other videos. But once you've done that, then you've set a mental framework so that you have a new paradigm that once you shake the energetic block, that you can rest your energy in this new paradigm. If you don't do this, you can shake an energetic block, but once you're faced with perceiving the thing that you had a block surrounding again, you're going to interpret it through that same old paradigm and it's going to put you back in a block again. So that's why I like to reframe it and get that solid in my consciousness before I do too much energetic work. Then what I do is energetically, I tune in to the particular area in my body that is associated with that block. So when I'm feeling, once I've identified what the block is, there's two ways of going about this. One, you can use your mind to figure out where the block would probably be. So if it's like an empowerment issue, you probably have a block in your throat and in your solar plexus, right? If it's a safety issue, it's going to be in your root chakra in your solar plexus. Solar plexus has to do with a lot of blocks that people have. So you can start working on those different energy centers based off of the kind of block that you have. The other way of going about it, which is really useful, and usually I would use both of these, is to feel in to your body in a meditative state. Basically meditate on that block and feel in and ask yourself, where is this blocked in my energy center, in my etheric body, in my physical body? Where am I holding this energy block? Because there is an etheric and physiological correspondent to all of the blocks that people hold on to. So you ask, where is this block within my body? And it will start revealing itself. Now, if you haven't felt it because you've been in denial of the block that you have, sometimes it's hard to feel it at first. But what happens is, as you start tuning into it, you'll realize that actually there is this part of you that is restricted, where energy is not flowing. Sometimes you can be able to discern this by having some sort of peak experience, where in that peak experience, it opens up your energy center. And then you feel the energy move through, and then you know, a little bit later or something happens later on and it restricts back up, and then you're like, oh, okay, actually now I felt what it was like to not have that block, so now I can feel where the block is. So you can notice it different ways. But if you don't have a peak experience and it doesn't happen that way, you just meditate on where is this block, and you start feeling the energy in your body. Qigong is really good for this because it helps you move energy through your body, and it starts tuning you into the subtle energetics of where you might have blocks. But eventually you'll start to feel, you know what? It feels tighter in this particular area of my body when I think this way, or when this other thing comes up, or when I'm reminded of this thing. And you'll feel the particular blocked area, and you'll be able to tune into that part of your body. So then what you start doing is you start consciously putting your attention on that area of your body and consciously working to breathe energy into that area and break up the stagnancy. And when you do this, you'll actually start noticing how it's connected to a lot of the thoughts that are associated with this block, and to the stimuluses in your environment that are associated with this block. This is why subtle energy awareness is so important, because your body's talking to you. Your etheric body's talking to you. The world is talking to you. Your emotions are talking to you. And the more you can be aware of all these different things and the subtleties of how they feel, the more of a comprehensive understanding you have of your consciousness and how it is interacting and interfacing with the reality that you find yourself in. So that's all I have for you today. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is Patrick Hayes. Like, subscribe, share with your friends. And if you haven't hit the bell button, hit the bell button, then you'll be notified every time I release a video. So I'll talk to you next time, and one love.